Hey, everybody, and welcome. Come on in. Let us know who you are in the chat and what brought you here today. Also, we have a short poll on your screen just to get us started, set some context. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll get started in just 1 minute, just giving everyone time to come in. Good to see lots of good faces. New people, old people, I love it. Thank you all so much. All right, let's get going. Thank you all so much. Let's see the results of our poll. So it seems most everybody here knows somebody who's been incarcerated or has been incarcerated themselves. But we still have a fair amount of people who have no experience. So if you're one of those people, welcome. I hope this conversation will be very enlightening for you. We'll have a lot of new information and just make you more open and aware of what a lot of people are experiencing. I now want to kick it over to Asia Beckham, who is going to be our moderator for this session. Asia, can you say hello and introduce the rest of us?
Hey everybody, my name is Asia Beckham with DCS and WMU, reporter in Southeast. Thank you all for being here at this informative event hosted by Thrive DC and Free Minds Book Club writing workshop. I wanted to talk with you all a little bit about two parts of what the day will look like or what this session will be like. First, we'll moderate the event and have our panelists speak and share their experiences. And then following that, we'll have an open discussion so that you all can ask questions and this is more interactive. Greg, do you want to jump in and just share a little bit about yourself, Alicia, and Demetria?
Yeah, well, I'm going to give talking about Thrive over to Alicia Horton, our executive director. And then once Alicia's done, Demetria, would love if you could tell us a little bit about Free Minds.
No problem.
So, Alicia?
Yes, thank you. First of all, I'd like to just welcome everybody to this forum. We hope that this will be the first of many opportunities to delve more into the issue of discrimination and bias among experienced by people who are returning home. But first, let me tell you a little bit about Thrive. We are a 40-year-old institution here in Washington, D.C., working to address critical needs of vulnerable communities. So a lot of our work is in the homeless arena. So we're working with a lot of individuals who are really just, in need of a lot of support and services to get back on their feet. And it's our hope that Thrive DC is and can be the heart of a new start for so many people. But one of the communities that we have begun working with almost 10 years ago now is individuals returning home, because we noticed within our community of homeless community members that so many of them were justice involved. So we started to create programming to address some of those unique needs that we knew our returning citizens were facing. And that has really spurred, to some extent, this campaign. What we know from a poll we recently instituted was that 80% of people who were coming home experienced some form of prejudice as a result of their status. About 70% of those polled said they'd been turned down for a job or judged by their coworkers because of their past record. Even worse, 1 out of 5 returning citizens will be homeless within 3 months of returning home because they simply cannot connect with the needed supports to take their next steps. And even if they have the will, and almost 100% of them do, the society won't let them move past the things that have happened in their past. So our goal here with this campaign is to really address that. So, this is not a support for the returning citizens. This is for everybody else to really do some internal checking and make sure that our own biases, whether we're aware of them or not, are really not inhibiting a whole community of people who just want to rebuild. And we hope that once we've done that internal work, we can encourage others to do the same so that we can create a society that will accept and lift up individuals who are trying hard to do that for themselves. So I'll talk all day, but I'll stop. So thank you all again for being here. And I want to thank our panelists and Aja for agreeing to work with us on this critical campaign. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Demetria Atkinson. I am a reentry coach for Free Minds. Free Minds uses tools of reading, writing, trauma, healing, violence and prevention, and intensive wraparounds. Reentry support such as job readiness and job placement to support incarcerated and formerly incarcerated youths and adults in achieving their life goals. Free Minds builds a community of support using books, poetry, publication, and peer support programs. Our reentry program provides case management, job placement, school placement, therapy, support groups, credit building, and a Black History study group and an advanced team. I am so excited to be in here. This was one group that I really, really wanted to engage with because of the things that we see with our guys. So I really appreciate this time with you all. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you both, Demetria and Alicia. I really appreciate you all sharing. It's so meaningful to hear why you all are interested in this work and also just your eagerness to hear from the panelists. A little bit about me. My father spent 13 years in prison for a homicide charge. He didn't share much about his experience when he returned home, but he did have struggles with employment, adjusting to his neighborhood, and just social isolation. But I'm looking forward to hearing from the panelists as well. And without further ado, we have Aaliyah, Margaret, and there's one person who just joined us. Is it Damian?
Damian.
Awesome. I see you in here, Damian. So let's get started. Can you all start by introducing yourselves, the three panelists? Let's just jump in a 30-second introduction of who you are. Aaliyah,
hello, everyone. Oh, sorry. My name is Aliyah. I work with Community Family Life Services. I'm a part of their Speakers Bureau program, which helps recently incarcerated women speak about their story and get the word out so everyone can have more knowledge of what's going on and to inform the community. I'm also a teacher at Ballou Senior High School, and I was incarcerated as a juvenile.
Awesome. Jamian or Margaret, do you want to jump in?
Sure, I'll jump in. Good afternoon, and as always, it's an honor and a pleasure to be here. Thank you for hosting this event. My name is Jamian Gray, and at 19 years old, I served. I had a 20-year sentence and ended up serving 17 years of that sentence. I'm a native Washingtonian, and I've been to 9 different federal institutions during my sentence. And I've been home for 2.5 years, and being home, I've participated in work training programs with Department of Employment Services. I've also coordinated events and mentored youth. And, I was the Congressman John Lewis Fellow, as well as now the DC RAND intern.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jamian. Margaret, can you give us a 30-second intro of who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Margaret. I'm a convicted felon. I was a drug user for a majority of my life since about the age of 14, off and on, culminated with me being locked in jail in 2015. So I have been out since then, and I've been sober for about 6 years. I still am not able to reacclimate myself with jobs and things. And I sort of live a lie in that I don't tell people I'm a convicted felon until I absolutely have to. It's very embarrassing and it's hard. So I am so grateful to be here and learn from all these people how I can share my truth and be more comfortable with it.
Awesome. Jamiana, I see you just reacted in the chat. Everyone here too, you can share something in the chat or feel free to react with the reactions at the bottom of the Zoom call. We're going to go ahead and put up our second poll question. And that question is, do you believe mistakes in your past define you as a person? I'm going to give everyone about 10, 15 seconds to respond to this one here. About 5 more seconds. All right, Greg, what are those results that we got? 91% say no, the mistakes that you made in your past don't define you as a person. Well, panelists, we want you to contribute to this as well, an open-ended question. Can you describe a moment when a personal relationship changed with someone because they found out about your status?
So, hey guys, I'll start again. My name is Aliyah Polite. A time in my life where a personal relationship changed with someone because of my status was my senior year in high school. So I was incarcerated at the end of my 10th grade year, and I was in the court system all the way until my 12th grade year. A time changed. I was at a new school because I got expelled from my 2 previous schools. And my teacher, I was always a regular kid, but when you were missing from school, you had to show a note of why you were gone, whether it be the doctor's office, a doctor's note, a dentist's office, a dentist's note. Well, for me, I had court dates because I was in and out of court. I was always on probation. So I brought the note to my teacher and immediately it just switched. Now, I was a regular kid. Sometimes I was loud in class, sometimes I would talk back, but that's any 16, 17-year-old. One time my teacher said in front of the entire class that, well, this isn't the hood. You can't do the things that you used to do. This isn't the block. And it was embarrassing because then the entire school, not the entire school, the entire class knew that I was in and out because I was going to court. And it was embarrassing because in my eyes, I was a regular child. I thought that all kids were loud. I thought that all kids talked back. I didn't know that just because of this one situation, I would get singled out. And ever since then, I was the bad kid or I was the trouble kid. And I had made mistakes in my past, but at this new school, I was trying to be a new person. So it didn't seem fair that I was held to a different standard than all of the other children that were in my class.
Thank you for sharing, Ali. I really appreciate you being just so candid. Any of the other panelists want to share?
Sure, I share. Again, my name is Jamie Young, and since my reentry back into society, fortunately, I haven't experienced that on a personal level, but I have recently just went through a situation where I was working with a nonprofit, and I went through the whole process of being transparent about being a returning citizen and explaining that to him, and was hired for that job, and was working for about close to a month, 3 weeks into a month, and then I got an email out of the blue saying that I was put on administrative leave because of my status. And so for me, that was a very emotional blow. It was a big blow. I never dealt with that before, and it took me a while just to kind of just regain my footing emotionally, because I'm sticking to doing everything, re-entering back into society the right way, and I'm fully committed to being a citizen, and just those trials and tribulations, they had an effect on me. So that was my situation.
Certainly, it's really interesting that those experiences will show up in the workplace. They will show up, whether it be housing, our families sometimes. Margaret, did you want to add anything to this question? No pressure.
Yeah, I was going to say the most recent experience I've had with this is with my family. I was recently visiting a large group of my family, and I had, we hung out for days. Everybody was fine until one of my family members was talking behind my back about me to another family member and said that I was a convicted felon. Everything completely changed. They were older individuals, but they acted like they didn't trust me. Even though we had been together, they know who I am. But once they found out just that label, everything changed. And that's my most recent experience with that.
Thank you all for sharing. Affordable housing is certainly a big issue for DC residents, but especially challenging for people who have returned home after incarceration. 1 in 5 DC residents coming back to the district will be homeless within 3 months of them returning to DC. A lot of NIMBY activists push back against programs that would, and NIMBY stands for Not in My Backyard. A lot of activists push back against programs that would help returning citizens get housing in their neighborhoods because they think that returning citizens will make the community more dangerous. Gary over at Free Minds DC, he mentioned to me that they're returning citizens everywhere. Folks might not disclose their status, but they are all across DC, not just in Southeast DC, not just in Northeast DC. Our neighbors, the folks in our communities are returning citizens, but they might not feel comfortable disclosing that information because of the stigmas. Here's one question for you all. Do you think that the community becomes more dangerous when returning citizens come home? I know it's an odd question to ask, but what are your thoughts, and can community members and how can community members and returning citizens foster trust?
So, hi guys, it's Aliyah again. I do not think that the community becomes more dangerous when returning citizens come. Like that was mentioned before, there are returning citizens everywhere. And DC is a very gentrified neighborhood. So there might be a returning citizen that maybe have done 20 years like Jamie on, but that was their neighborhood before it was your neighborhood. So you are the new person in the neighborhood. I feel like that we can foster a relationship by just meeting each other, having community events. It's not a bad thing to be a returning citizen. Most returning citizens, they come out and they want to do a complete 180. They don't want to be the same person that they were when they went in. They just want to go in their neighborhood and live a normal life. Like Jamie said, they want to be a returning citizen and come out and do things the right way. It isn't fair to say, well, not in my backyard. Well, how long has it been your backyard? Has it been your backyard long enough to know that this person lives there, this person's family lives there? It's not fair to have someone in another neighborhood on the street just because you're uncomfortable. We can find a way to make each other comfortable just by meeting each other, having a conversation with the person, having a conversation with community leaders, and we'll know that it's a change that's coming.
Thank you, Leah. I really appreciate you sharing. Any other thoughts, Jamie and Margaret?
Yeah, I agree with Aaliyah wholeheartedly about that because, usually when people return home, they come home with a renewed mindset and to, especially me personally, with a commitment to rebuild the communities that I once hurt, and with that, I think as Aaliyah was talking about, like community meetings, just being a part of that will allow, a bridge to be made where we can connect on a human level, and with that connection, it takes away the stigmas of what prison is or what you watch about prison on TV, and it brings you, it brings us both to an even level. So, that's what I think about.
Jamie and Leah, something that you both have touched on is the importance of communication. Like you mentioned, those events, those meetings. Sometimes I wonder who the conversation is between with the NIMBY activists. Is it between the NIMBY activists and developers, or NIMBY activists and the property manager? But is there ever a conversation with neighbors, already existing neighbors, and returning citizens to just sort of convene and to create a line of communication? So it's always something that I'm thinking about. Who is that communication between, and how can folks convene to foster more trust? We're going to open it up for audience questions real soon. So feel free to pop questions in the chat, you all. We'll be doing that in the next two minutes or so. I'm wondering sort of, sorry, I got some notes here. What do you think that, do you think that it's better if the neighbors don't know the status of a returning citizen, or is it best to be open? Just what do you all think is the solution to it? I know you mentioned meetings and things like that, but specifically talking about the status, what are you all's thoughts?
Well, in regards to that question, I feel like it's better to be open. Like I said, I'm a teacher at Blue, and like Margaret had touched on, at first it's kind of embarrassing. You really don't want anyone to know your status. You don't want to lose a job. You don't want to lose a friendship. You don't want people to look at you differently. However, you'll always feel like you're walking on eggshells around those people, or you're walking on eggshells. Oh, if they know, they're going to treat me differently. I feel like it's just best to be open. Once you open up, it's just a doorway to, okay, this is what happened. I'm not that person anymore. And you can treat me how you see me. You know, I don't want someone to treat me how I was when I was 15. I want someone to treat me as how they see me now as an adult. I feel like I've done a complete 180. I haven't done a 360. I'm not the same person that I was. And I always tell people, were you the same person that as a teenager? If you're the same person as you were when you were 13, then cool, then look at me that way. But everyone is not. Everyone goes through changes, whether it's with incarceration, whether it's just with growing up, whether it's just with having hardships. Everyone is a different person. And I want people to realize that. And I feel like it's best to just be open about that, so they know that people can change.
Absolutely. Aaliyah, you mentioned, you know, you were 15 when it happened. Now you're 24. I don't know if you mentioned too, I know you mentioned that you're a teacher at Baloo, but the specific type of work that you do as well. Can you share a little bit about the work that you do at Baloo?
Yeah, so not only am I a teacher, I work with behavioral students, which are students that might have difficult behaviors and they have to get taken out of the regular classrooms. They consolidate them into my classroom, and I help them with just their regular work, and I help them express themselves in a better way. So instead of them fighting each other or yelling at each other, we might have a circle. We might all talk to each other. Everyone passes around a talking stick. We all can have a way where we won't interrupt each other. We won't yell at each other. We'll just talk peacefully. And just things like that. These students, they were put out of other people's classrooms. They're into my classroom, and they're completely different. When I first got there, I had teachers tell me, like, I've never seen these children do work. I've never seen this happen. What are you doing in that classroom? And I'm just letting them be themselves. It's easier for them to know who they are and to release it and to work on it than to hide who they are, try to conform to something that they're not.
Absolutely. And like you mentioned, you know, just you being able to support students who, myself, I was expelled 2-3 times from school. No one knows that, right? But I struggled quite a bit. But I think, like you mentioned, we're not who we were when we were teenagers. And no one would know unless we shared that. But we want this to be a space where we can have a conversation with folks who have been in prison and folks who have not, and just create a line of communication. So with that being said, Jamian or Margaret, did you all have anything else to share before we open up for audience questions and just sort of communicate with one another?
I wanted to say that I feel like, oh, was he going? Sorry.
No, go ahead, ladies first.
Okay, I just wanted to say that I think it's all on a human level. If you can meet somebody on a human level and see that they're not their title, it's so much better than just saying, you know, the not in my backyard people. I mean, I get the idea of people coming home from prison can be scary, but none of us are scary. And 180-degree turn is exactly the right way to put it. I want to be the best person I can to bring value to my neighborhood, to not do the things, to protect the children from not doing the things that I did growing up. So I think I would only add value to it that I go.
Jamian, did you have something that you wanted to share real quick?
Yes, I agree with what everyone said, and I also think that, you know, it's empowering, you know, just taking control of your status and understanding that, and then, you know, that for me, it allowed me to accept my situation and then be able to understand, like, okay, there are people who might not accept who I am, you know, or that might not want to live around me, and that's cool. But outside of that, you know, if you were to actually get to know me, then you would enjoy my presence. You would enjoy being around me, and you know, so um, those are my thoughts on it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And also thank you to the folks who are adding questions in the chat, as well as just listening and being fully engaged. Rebecca, I see you asked a question in the chat. Can I get you off of mute, Rebecca, so that you can ask this question to the panelists?
Sure.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for being here and for hosting us. This is great. I had a question about what was your biggest challenges when you came home and what would have made that transition easier?
So, hi, Rebecca. Aliyah again. I want to say for me, my biggest challenge was coming home was in my head, I had an idea of what I was going to do. I said I was going to get my life together. I wasn't going to be outside. I wasn't going to fight. I wasn't going to do the things that led me to being incarcerated. However, coming home, it's different. You're home, you're in the same neighborhood, you have the same family, you have the same friends, you have the same drama, the same obstacles. It's kind of hard getting away from that if all you're surrounded by just that. Even if you're trying to change and you're with your friends, they won't take you seriously. They'll think you're just playing, or, you know, they're like, oh, you know, give her a day, she'll be back, or give her, you know, a week, she'll be back. Or they'll try to test you just so it can be like, see, I told you you're the same person. That was my biggest challenge, was just trying to get away from that and really change, like really having to separate myself from the people, my environment, just everything. That was my biggest challenge, because people, when you come home, they kind of don't really want to see you do that 180. Some people still want you to be that same person, and it's hard getting away from that because you're comfortable in that space.
Thank you.
Anything to add, Jamian or Margaret?
I think my biggest challenge, especially for being gone for so long, because, you know, as I mentioned, you know, I was 19 years old with a 20-year sentence, and I served 17 years of that. And so, and returning back into society, you know, it was a brand new world for me. And so just the simple things, like, for example, going to McDonald's, you know, I almost had an anxiety attack just being in McDonald's because I didn't even know how to order the food, you know, just trying to learn a smartphone, you know, we don't have smartphones in prison. So, you know, those were some of the biggest challenges. Housing, because, you know, even still right now, you know, I'm still homeless. You know what I mean? My name is not on the lease where I lay my head at. So I'm still labeled homeless. And and then I had mentioned about the job, you know, my personal experience with the job. So those were all my biggest challenges, as well as just relearning my family. Like, that was a challenge as well. And, you know, Aaliyah was kind of alluding to it, just them relearning who I am, opposed to the person that I was as a 19-year-old kid, you know what I mean? And readjusting to me as being a 38-year-old adult. You know, that's like a big adjustment. So um, those were some of the challenges that I faced.
Thank you.
And Jamian, I'm nodding my head here because I remember when my father returned home, he struggled a lot with being in spaces where there are a lot of people. Even when we would have family dinners at our table, like, I remember my dad just eating so quickly and just, we probably feeling judged that we were all just like, you know, yeah, that we were so, you know, just to be real, he probably felt judged that we were all like just observing him instead of just like, you know, this is just dad reacclimating back. So yeah, 100% here, and I'm just nodding my head because I think you share a lot of experiences that my father shared when he re-entered. Margaret, did you want to share anything?
Yeah, so many things, but everything they said rings so true to me. I was very lucky in that I had family willing to get me out of the situation I was in, because I was so young when I started laying the groundwork for my bad habits. They were very dug in, and I had to leave the situation I was in to really work on myself. So I was very lucky that I had somewhere to go, but otherwise I don't know what I would have done. So that was the most challenging for me, was just I had to remove myself so I could help myself.
Thank you, Margaret and Tara. It seems like you've popped a question here in the chat. Tara, can I have you off mute just to share your question, if that's all right?
Yeah, thanks a lot. I'm just so grateful for this event. My dear friend Alicia and all our friends at Thrive. I'm the co-founder, executive director of Free Minds, and we've been working with our members that were youth charged as adults, and now all members, and it seems to not get better. It's been almost 18 years, and I think there's more awareness and understanding, but I think that one-on-one is really tough. So I wanted to ask the panelists, which are amazing for your bravery and courage in sharing this, what is it, what have you found, if it went particularly well when you shared, you felt safe enough with an employer or a family member, community, whatever, what was the interaction? I know there's no magic way to say it, and everybody's an individual and different, but we're just like searching for that it really engendered compassion on the person you were talking with. And you probably already thought, all right, they're a safe-paced person I could share, or for a job I have to share. I don't know, any tips or strategies that you guys experienced that you felt, yeah, well, that went way better than I thought it would?
I would say for me, just really being open and honest. You know, we're all human and we all have feelings and we all have emotions. So when you really get to tell your story, the way that you experienced it, like how you really felt, people start feeling empathy for you, you know, especially like in situations like Margaret, if she laid her foundation when she was young, or me when I was young, or Jamie when we were young. It's just that foundation, or even if you weren't young, what were you going through to make you do that? It's not like everyone just has this switch and they just do it. What were your surroundings like? What were you going through? You know, a lot of children or even adults go through some traumas that make them have these decisions. What exactly trauma? And when you really get to the root of that, people start, you know, they feel for you, they feel that, and it's not that bad. They start to, you know, see you not as a monster, but this made that person do that, this was a mistake, or this was the decision that they feel like they had to make. You know, just really be yourself and like just letting those layers back.
Yeah, again, I definitely agree with Aaliyah, because empathy is definitely a big word, and especially when a person has went through a traumatic experience, and is trying to get over that experience and then turn that experience to the better for themselves and also for other people that's around them. And I think for me, one of the experiences that really made me feel welcome and at home, and I'm not just saying this, it's Free Minds. I mean, when I first went to Free Minds, the empathy they showed allowed me to know that they care, and it gave me a safe space to say, okay, well, I can really be me here. I don't have to, put on a facade or be something other than who I am. And I think that was kind of key for me.
I feel like for me, I need these tips. I need to find out how to do it. I think my intention was to come out here, start a new life, meet people, get them to know me, and then, tell them this thing and they'll be shocked, but I haven't gotten to the point where I want to do that yet. I have one friend who, through just, being close with, when she shared some things about her past, she sounded a little rowdy like me when she was a teenager. She was the only one that I was comfortable enough with to share. And so I love having her, like I can say, oh, I got to do this for probation. She's the only person that I can share those things with. I haven't been able to break it. So I'm glad for all the tips and help I can get as well.
Awesome. So one last question for all the panelists. What do you want everyone here to know or walk away with after leaving this discussion? And of course, I'll pass it off to Greg to share just a little bit more about the work that Thrive DC and Free Minds is doing. But what do you all want folks to walk away with?
Something that I want everyone to walk away with was, again, my point of everyone is not the same person that they were. If you think of how you were as a child, you're not that same person. And to just give people a chance. Like, what if when you were younger, no one ever gave you a chance? You were just stuck. That one mistake you made, maybe you ran and you broke something in the house and your mom never let up about it as long as you live. It's ridiculous. And in the world that we live in today, everyone is fighting for safe spaces. I feel like returning citizens should have a safe space too. You know, we all need somewhere that we can call home, that we can feel safe, and we can be ourselves and we can share our true selves. If you keep holding someone accountable for something that they did that was a mistake, it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. They're gonna try to, well, no one believes me anyway. No one believes I'm trying to change. Let me just be that same person. You have to be the change that you want to see. You have to help them in their growth. Everyone wants to grow. So just, you know, be some water on that plant that's trying to grow.
Hello, can I ask a question?
Oh, yes, absolutely, Raphael.
How y'all doing? My name is Raphael Douglas. I actually just came home about 3 months ago. I like to know, like, how was y'all transition from being in jail and coming home, for like the difference and stuff like that? Like, how did y'all transition? And I got on a call kind of late.
Raphael, we really appreciate you joining us, panelists. Can we get you off mute?
So Raphael, like I said, my transition was hard at first. Like I said, I was a child. I had to go back to the same neighborhood with the same friends, with the same surroundings. So mine was hard at first. I didn't really get into my niche until, like, I want to say I've had to remove myself from certain things and certain situations. I got into a program with a district attorney. She was having a program for girls that were recently incarcerated. And it was only in that program that I was able to see a change for myself. They took us out of our neighborhood. They gave us work like homework help, teaching us how to be ready for a job interview. I had to de-surround myself from my friends and put myself in a situation where I was learning new things. And that was how I was able to better my transition.
I think for me, with my transition, especially after doing 17 years, it was more so about, you know, me being patient and just understanding that if I continue to do things the right way and not take shortcuts and continue being consistent with that eventually everything that I'm looking for, everything that I'm working for, all the dreams that I'm trying to achieve will happen. And that's just not to say that inside of that process, you know, trials and tribulations won't happen, or things won't sidetrack you, or didn't bump me off the road. Because, like, in my own personal experience, I was home for 3 months and my sister passed away. And that was a big blow because, like, I was just getting to know her. And, you know, it was a blow that had me thinking, you know, differently. It had me questioning, you know, my commitment. And, you know, I allowed those emotions in that situation to wash over, and I went and got back on the ball. And I think, you know, that patience and perseverance and knowing where you're trying to go, and staying committed and stayed firm to that will help any person that's returning or that's trying to get from one situation to the next situation succeed.
I think it's really important to mention, you know, where have you all found that support? And also, where have you found like new friends, a community that wants to see you excel? Aaliyah, you mentioned, some friends or family wanted to prove like, oh, this is still the same person. But how did you move beyond that space and those friendships, or manage those family and friend relationships so that you could, put your blinders on and block what other people were saying that you were, or trying to focus on your past. But how did you find community, and where did you find support that wanted to see you win?
So I had to find people that were like me. I really want to give a shout out to Community Family Life Services in DC. It really helped me, especially being in the Speakers Bureau. I was placed with other women who were recently incarcerated. Some of them lived in the same neighborhood as me, and really getting to hear their stories. Everyone that was recently incarcerated, everyone wanted to change. And Community Family Life Services has programs specifically for women that are recently incarcerated. So that really helped me. Like I said, when I first came home, there was a district attorney starting a program for at-risk and high-risk youth. And that helped me as well. I had to really get away and find people that were like me, or people that wanted to help people like me, in order for me to change and feel that. And my family members followed suit after they saw like, oh, she's really trying to change. Okay, let's give her a chance. So I had to just really like separate myself and go be with, like I said, people who were like me, people who wanted to help people like me, in order to, block out those people that wanted to, see me fall, see my downfall. And there are still people in my family or that are around me that want to see my downfall, that want to prove that, it's a facade. Because if you first meet me or you first see me, you don't see someone that was recently incarcerated, or you don't see me as the old me. So I really just have to keep going. And I have to think of the youth. Like I said, I work at Baloo. I have to think of the youth that are like me. That's why I love my job, because it keeps me going. For the people that want to see me fail, for the people that want to see them fail, I have to be that guiding light. Now I'm the person that wants to help people like me. I'm in that position.
Margaret, how did you reacclimate, to answer Raphael's question, but also how did you find community and folks who wanted to support you in your trajectory and growth?
My experience was exclusively family. Where I'm from, there aren't a lot of services, and it was just surrounded by people who wanted to keep me down with them. Like I said, I had to leave, and I'm so grateful that I had the support of people who gave me a chance, and they really put their neck out for me, and it really meant a lot.
I don't know if I missed anything, Greg. Do you see any questions in the chat that I may have overlooked? Greg, you there?
I am there. I was just on mute. I think one of the interesting questions, was there any support while you were in the criminal justice system?
For me, in the places that I was when I was incarcerated, like for example, I was at USP Big Sandy, and it was a very violent place. And what I noticed was that we didn't have an outlet outside of violence. And so what I did was created a program called Change, which was an acronym for that stood for Confined Humans Aspiring New Goals Endlessly. That's what Change meant. And so what it was a safe space that people could come and communicate, how they're really feeling about all this violence that's going around, about what's going on in the institution, whatever their frustrations was in regards to family communication, whatever their frustrations were about, the food or whatever. And, that support group actually, change like the institution, because the more people who graduated out of the program, the less violence occurred and the more just communication happened. Because a lot of the times, being from different places and demographics, we don't understand how to communicate with each other. And And so, you know, that was kind of like one of the big things that I did.
Did you all want to share anything, Aaliyah or Margaret, before we wrap it up?
No, I think Jamie, y'all made a great point. I didn't really have any support in incarceration. Mine came from, you know, when I was released. But like he said, there's a lot of violence that's surrounding you. And I'm so glad that he was able to be in the change, you know, to get away from that while he was still inside.
Asia, one more question if we can go before we wrap up. One of the things that I noticed when I talked to all of you before the session and other people is the stress that comes with, do you reveal your status? Do you not reveal your status? How do you negotiate that when you meet new people? And just what's that like to live with constantly negotiating that and wondering if people are going to look at you differently? Can you talk a little bit about what that stress is like?
It's like walking on eggshells. It's like, you know, you meet, it's like a first date. You meet someone and you really want them to like you. You really want them to accept you, but you're afraid to, you know, be yourself, to reveal yourself. And you're afraid if they find out, how are they going to treat you? Are they going to treat you differently? Am I going to lose my job? How can I eat? It's really, really stressful. It's like almost having like an anxiety attack, because with one motion, someone could change everything in your life. Like Jamion said, he was working and then they put him on administrative leave. That's money, you know, if he has a family, that's money away from his family. That's anything, you know, it's really, really stressful. It's like having an anxiety attack, walking on eggshells, because you want to, you know, release everything. You want to, you know, be open because this is who you are and you want to change. But a lot of times people don't really reveal themselves just because of they don't want people to treat them differently. They don't want anything to change about them. And it's sad because in order to do that 180, they sometimes have to just suppress all of that down inside of them.
I think that, again, you know, that's a great point that Aaliyah just made. And, you know, for the most part, it's very intimidating. And I think for me, you know, how I combat that is, you know, I have a strong sense of self-confidence, in the sense where, you know, even though I'm not prepared for everything, like I definitely was blindsided behind the job situation. But even with that, I'm prepared to, I've accepted it inside of me. I accepted that what I did was made a mistake. You know what I mean? And I've healed from that mistake. And in that healing process, it gave me the confidence to be able to roll with, you know, the punches, so to speak, you know what I mean, from whatever life kind of throws my way. And I think for a lot of returning citizens, sometimes we take on that stigma and we don't heal from it. We don't heal from our mistakes. And when we face obstacles or situations, you know, especially when we're blindsided by life, you know, if we haven't healed from that, then it definitely can knock us all the way off course and send us back into a negative spiral. And so that was one of the things before I came home, that I kind of was really focusing on, was my healing process and understanding how to answer these questions, you know, in a job setting or in a social setting, how to address these issues, because they're a part of me now, but they don't define me. And I believe that some totally. So that's how, kind of like how I look at it.
And we definitely hope that everyone who's tuned in
Asia,
today.
I think Margaret had something.
Oh yeah, absolutely, Margaret.
I I agree with everything they said. Everything they said is 100% how I feel. Another thing I worry about is within my community, with my neighbors. I worry that they'll treat my kids differently, that they'll be judged. That's one of the biggest things for me. I don't want them to have to suffer for what I did in the past. As much as I agree with everything they say, I'm still the one who hasn't done it yet. So obviously I don't agree. I can't agree that much. I'm really hoping that after this, I can use some of you guys' techniques and strength to just face it head on. And if they judge me, then that's on them. And I know I'm not that person, but it is really hard. Easier said than done for me anyway.
Maybe just, I guess the follow-up question to this is just, how do you want people to react, and what do you want people to do?
I want people to react as they see me. If I've met you and we had a great conversation and you feel like I'm fun to be around, I'm such a good person, I'm very outgoing, then treat me as that. Don't treat me as my stigma. Don't treat me as how I was. Treat me how you see me. As with a lot of returning citizens, like I said, if we're a different person, then treat us as that. Treat me how you met me. Don't treat me from the past because you didn't know me in the past. You should only treat me how you see me now, in the present, in the future, right now.
Is Jamie on gonna go? I don't know.
No, you can go ahead.
Well, okay. My hope is that it would just be like, oh, like, said, done, move on. You know me for who I am, and everything I am to you still remains the same. Eventually, I would like to get to the point where I could help other people, maybe be an inspiration to them and show them where you can come from things that I did and still, be a good person and not have it affect you in your everyday life. But that's got to be for the future. First, I got to talk about it, I guess.
Yeah, I really don't think there's anything to add to that. I think, they basically summed it up.
No, 100%. And, I hope that everyone who's tuned in today can just sort of walk away with, one, everyone's story, but two, thinking differently about those, thinking more open-mindedly about, do the mistakes that you made in the past define you and who you are today? Would you trust your coworker and be just as welcoming to them once they disclose, if they disclose their status to you? Would you treat them differently? I want us to think more, be more open-minded. And also think about, are you comfortable living next door to a returning citizen? And just thinking about how to be more open-minded. We hope that you all tune into more conversations like these and follow the work that Thrive DC and Free Minds is doing.
Wait, Asia, we can actually talk a little bit more about that.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna pass it out to you, Greg.
Okay, good. Sorry, I didn't want us to close out. Absolutely. Look, if you have been impacted by this conversation, if you are inspired, if you are fired up, if you want to get involved and do something, there are lots of ways for you to do that. One, at Thrive DC, we always need volunteers. We need support, whether it's with in-kind donations or however you want to support. But I will be sending a follow-up email with links to CFLS and Free Minds and Thrive, so that if you want to get involved with these organizations and see how you can make an impact and help your community open up to people coming home, you can absolutely do that. Demetria?
Thank you. And as well for Free Minds, we have openings for volunteers as well as donations. We always trying to do what we can to make a next level up of helping these guys get a job, get a place to live. Sometimes as far as phones, we need those as well. So if you have an organization that are giving out phones and everything, we have guys that really need them to be able to have those calls to get those things that they need as well. Thank you.
If I could just close out with a comment. First of all, the panelists were incredible. You know, the vulnerability you have displayed here is not easy, and I know that. So I want to thank you for taking this step, for sharing these stories, for you know, helping us to educate the larger public on the hardships that people face. You know, whether we all want to admit it or not, we all have something that we are choosing to keep secret, or you know, whatever. But so you're not alone in that. And I think Jamion's statement about forgiving yourself first is critical. It's so profound. I think that is the first step in this journey, is to forgive yourself, and then radiate that, so that other people can walk in that light and know that you are the person you're trying to be. We're all growing, learning. So again, thank you. We hope that this is a journey we can continue to take and continue to educate and bring more people aboard. And we hope you take the ride with us. Thank you so much, everybody.
Absolutely. We promised an hour. We'll let you all go, but thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Aaliyah.
everyone. That was incredible.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks.
And I'm just taking some non-panelists out. Yeah, so thank you all. I think that went really well.
Good job.
It did.
Yeah, y'all were awesome.